right, good morning, church. How you doing today? Let me get this out of the way right now. If you're new today, my name is Chris. I'm the lead pastor here at Our City Church, and we're so glad you're here. Thank you. And we're in this series called Domino Effect. We've been talking about small disciplines that turn into big results. I want to welcome everyone watching online today or listening to this on our podcast as well. Everybody say hey online. If you have a Bible, I want to invite you to open it to John chapter 5. John chapter 5, that's what we're going to look at here today to kind of help us get into the message. Last week, we had the launch of the NFL season, which matters to some of you and does not matter at all to others of you. And in my world, that's big. Grew up a huge San Francisco 49ers fan, right? My dad made the wise choice when we were young children. There was 3 boys. I was the middle. I have an older and a younger brother that all grew up together. We have a bigger blended family, but the 3 of us grew up. And at that time, my dad had grown up a Oakland Raiders fan. And so he has these 3 boys, right? And it's the 80s, right? We're growing up in the 80s. And at that time, the Oakland Raiders became the Los Angeles Raiders and were leading in the riot and felony division of Los Angeles. So my father made the wise choice to said, I think we're going to go with Joe Montana and the Super Bowl winning 49ers. So we moved over to that. We never knew that till later. We never had the chance to love the Raiders. I think my dad wanted to keep us out of prison. So, so that worked. Here I am so far. So last week was an opportunity. It was really fun. I was able to go last Monday. They played on Monday night. So when it's not on Sundays, those are games that I will, if I can, I'll try to get tickets or, go up to. And so this last Monday was Monday Night Football. They played against the Jets. And one of our amazing, awesome men of God leaders in our church, he's a great leader. He leads a men's life group. He's been on the Our City care team and response team to people in need. And he even helps, he's on our life group curriculum team where he helps write life group curriculum. And he's a sergeant major in the Army. Our very own JR and I, we went up to the game. I have a picture of us at that game being so happy. That's it. And we were fired up. I mean, we are in the middle of everything. Just trust that. And apparently, marijuana is legal in California. So that was happening. Not by us, by others. Some of you are like, what? Where's this going? No, it was in the air. In the air. And so it was crazy. It was an amazing time. We had such a fun time. I think I even videoed. I want you guys to feel this, okay? I want you to see the joy that came in our lives. Real quick, here's just a short little clip of us just having fun at the game. Dude, wait for your boy. Yeah. Look at JR. JR was feeling it. JR, wave your hand. You're right here. Everybody give him a big hand. Now, one of the hard things about when you go to a live game is finding something healthy to eat, okay? We could not. We tried, and the lines were long, and we were like, man, so we just, you decide to do what you have to do. Now, some of you may not recognize this or know this, probably not, but back in December, I realized that my own personal health was kind of going awry. And I had grown out of the size shirt I had worn my whole life, which was medium. And all of a sudden, I'd put medium on, and I looked like not me. Not me at all. I was like, this was me talking, by the way. I don't want to be like anyone. But I was looking, I was like, dude, I look like the Pillsbury Doughboy right now, man. I need to get something right. And so since January 1, I've lost 20 pounds, which is a lot for me. I know some of you are like, fool, you didn't have 20 pounds to lose. Trust me. If you saw me at the beach, you'd been like, Pastor Chris, what's up? And so I've been working on it. I started going back to the gym, started eating healthy, watching my diet. I started swimming again in the mornings a couple times a week. And it's been a battle, to be honest with you, in my own personal life. But on this day, there are days you decide today's not the day to care, okay? Now, unfortunately, for the last 3 years, I had a lot of those days, but this day was the day I just said, whatever. I had five fully loaded, fully amazing San Francisco 49er hot dogs that day. 5. I'm so embarrassed right now, but this is church. We tell the truth, cleanse our souls, get encouraged, and go back out there for another week of trying, okay? So I did. I had, again, 5, not 1, not 2. You would have thought at 3 I should have stopped. 4, and I said if you do 4, there's got to be 5. They tasted so good. I was so glad I did that until the next day. It didn't feel good. My stomach was messed up. I deserved that day of suffering. It was awful. I'm not going to go into like bathroom discussion, but just know that experience wasn't awesome either. My body was like, it was like, man, you love me again. Thank you, dude. My body was so cool. And then all of a sudden that next morning was like, why do you hate me so much? Why? And look, we all want to be healthy, right? Like, I think that's something that we all would want. It's not easy to do. It can be a challenge. I think we all want to be in shape, look good, kind of feel good, obviously, with that, fit in clothes that you haven't fit in a while. But it's not just our health that we have a desire to be healthy in. We also want to be healthy emotionally. We don't want emotions that are out of shape, right? That, like, don't respond and don't function and don't act correctly. We want to be good listeners, right? We want to be caring to people. We don't want to be reactive. We want to learn how to respond. We want to say sorry when we are reactive and when the not so good part of our emotional responses get going first. We want to be people who can take responsibility for that and be accountable. That's harder for some of you than it is for others of you. Some of you say sorry all the time when it's not your fault. Some of you never say sorry when it is your fault. That's not being emotionally fit. That's being unhealthy emotionally. And the reality is it's easy when, and some people have physical challenges and there's medical reasons for this, but it is easy to see, for me, it was easy to see in my own body, it began to change. And I began to, see it. I could tell I wasn't being healthy. You could physically, with my eyeballs look. The challenge is that when it comes to other areas of health, like emotional health or even spiritual health, you can't tell by looking at someone. You can tell by watching their reactions, but just watching someone walk by, you don't know. You're like, man, that person doesn't know how to take accountability for when they make mistakes. They tell their kids they should say sorry, but when they say something mean to their husband or are rude, they don't say sorry, right? When he goes off, he wants his kids to say sorry, but he don't say sorry, right? Like that's an emotionally unhealthy response. And so we all want this. We want to be spiritually healthy, right? We want to be connected to God. We want to be alive in the area of our faith or of our connection to God and to the supernatural. Unfortunately, if you're anything like me, you've tried a lot of different approaches to these things in our life, and none of them last, right? You get motivated to go to the gym, and then you don't go to the gym. You start therapy, and then the therapist says something you don't like. You're like, no, this therapy don't work, right? And you're out of that. Right? I know. There's a few of you that have done that. Very story. You start reading the Bible more, and then after a while, like this, that, and the other, you're not reading the Bible so much, right? We're going to go to church as a family. And then you got this, that, and the other come up, and all of a sudden, your churches have been harder to get to, and you're trying to get back. You can stick it for weeks, but maybe not months. And life and decisions and this event and that event. Now, the next thing you know, you're over there, and you're like, dude, I've ate out 4 times this week, or I have just run myself so thin that now I'm just reacting, and I'm not learning how to respond appropriately. And we can get negative when that happens, right? Like, I'll never lose this weight. I've always been this way. This is how my whole family's like this, right? They all act like this. I've tried everything there is. I've gone to therapy. I've forgiven this person. I wrote their name on a piece of paper, threw it in the fire. Like, you do all this stuff, right? And when you get to that negative place, you could feel like that. Like my wife, my husband, my mom, my dad, my sister, brother, they're just impossible. You couldn't even imagine. They're just impossible. And you're left to shut down, disengaged, like you're just discouraged. You could be unenthused to even try. That's just an area you're like, I'm not even going to do that thing. That's an area of my life I have literally just frozen, put on the shelf, and I'm just operating everything else. And if this thing keeps getting worse, it just gets worse because I've chosen to ignore it, and that's called living in denial. Denial is an appropriate response to grief and pain for a season. But when denial becomes the life you live, and it's no longer just, this is what denial is. I deal with something difficult by not dealing with it for now. Okay, and that's appropriate when you lose a father, when you lose a mother, when you lose a husband or a wife, when somebody dies in your life, or when you get fired from your job, or when your dog you've loved for 15 years dies. Like, you go into immediate grief. And so you start with denial. I got to go to work, so I'm going to deal with this pain by not dealing with it. It's appropriate. It's actually a God-given way to deal with pain for a season. When that season is years and years and years later, there's something probably where it's like, okay, now I'm just like not dealing with an area of my life that is not healthy. That part is detrimental. How do we get back on track? Because I think we all have a shared experience. I think we all right now, if we were just me and you sitting down for coffee, you'd be like, Pastor Chris, literally everything you just said describes like that area of my life. That's my health. That's my emotions. You know, that's my spirituality. Like it kind of gotten in this frozen state. And I'm just like, I haven't looked at it. I really haven't wanted to look at it because I know I've actually been careless and reckless in that area. And so then I feel guilty and bad. And I feel loads of shame and regret. I feel like I'm a bad example to my family. I feel like I'm a hypocrite at work. I feel like you have all this stuff that loads us down. God does not want us to live in that state. That's not what he wants. Okay, so how do we get out of that? How do we change that? How do we shake out of that? There's a story in the Bible here in John 5. I want to go into it. I want you to see that there is someone, forgive me, by the way, I'll be coughing a little bit today, that there's someone in this story that has that exact same thing. They are definitely in a place where their life is like frozen. It is literally paralyzed where it's at. And I want to pick it up right here. It says in John chapter 5, verse 1, sometime later, Jesus went up to Jerusalem for one of the Jewish festivals. Now, there is in Jerusalem near the sheep gate a pool, which in Aramaic is called Bethsaida, and which is surrounded by 5 covered colonnades. Verse 3, here, a great number of disabled people used to lie, the blind, the lame, and the paralyzed. Everybody say there and then. If you're new around here, I always like to ask our church to reconsider like the idea of there and then. What it means is we want you to know what was happening in the story of the Bible when it was written, there and then. I want you to leave every week with something that you know about the Bible that you didn't know before you walked in at our city church. That's important for us. So there and then, these disabled people would lay there during this time, and there would be a lot of Gentile healing shrines. Okay, there would be statues to the Greek gods and to the different Greek gods that they believed would heal them, and they would lay around these colonnades, and there would be waters and pools, but they were all to be dedicated to a god named Asclepius, and this was believed to be the son of Apollo, and was the god of healing, truth, and prophecy. That was the Greek version of that. So you have all these people that are there, and this is what they kind of have come to believe. Archaeology suggests that this pool was used for that exact purpose. So we have a pool that's really a shrine, and it's dedicated to a God that's supposed to be the God of healing, the God of truth, and the God of prophecy. Certainly Jesus was not the first proposed God to be a God of healing, truth, and prophecy. Now, verse 5, one who was there and had been an invalid for 38 years. Let's just pause real quick. I want you to understand that your environment plays an important role in what you think you're able to do. Okay, so I just want you, before we go into this man's story, I want you to remember the number 38 years. Okay, 38 years he'd been surrounded by other disabled people. When you hang out with people who are disabled in a certain area, that area becomes your area of being disabled. And that could be a way of thinking, a way of acting, a way of living out in your marriage. It could be a way of being healthy or not healthy, choices, how much easier it is to get healthy. One of the people I see often and a lot is Pastor Mike Sanders. Obviously, he has the body of a Greek god. But he is one of the most disciplined people that I know in my entire life. He is up before 5 o'clock most every day mornings. He is in that gym. I know guys who go to that gym, and I saw one of them yesterday, and I was like, yeah, he was like, hey, how's Mike? And I was like, he's so good. He goes, dude, that guy is an animal in the gym. He goes, dude, he is so strong. He is so like into it, and he's like, he don't miss, man. He just stays at it. And Mike, his personal stories, if some of you have been around here a while, you know that Mike, he had gotten up. What was your top weight when you got out? He got up to 264. Man, sorry, I thought it was like 240. Sorry, I wouldn't have called you out loud on that. But now Mike is like, I mean, if you ain't fit and you don't love yourself as a man, you don't want to go to the beach with Mike because it's so obvious. I look way worse. I remember there was a few pictures of me and Mike. We was at the beach with our girls because they're friends. We're all there, dude, and Mike's just like, yak, like this, just like looking perfect, dude. And I was like, dude, I look like I stumbled into one of the men's fitness magazine photo shoots. Like I was looking around for something and I was just like, what? And then this dude's like, hey man, you in the shot? I'm like, what? It's just like all sticking out, all bad. So bad. This man had been around paralyzed people for 38 years. So we could definitely consider that the way things were on the outside do begin to dictate how you feel on the inside, okay? And what your belief will be even about what you can change about your outside environment. I guess if you were taking notes, what I would want to tell you is that environment decides your outside, right? And your inside. Like your inside, like your anger or your fear or your resentment or your excuse making, right? That stuff's on the inside. But a lot of times the people you're around in your own life can dictate what you begin to think, feel, believe, and are willing to do on the inside. And so it's important to recognize that right away. Verse 6, when Jesus saw him lying there and learned that he had been in this condition for a long time, he asked him, do you want to get well? And I just want to pause on that question for a moment because I think it's a pretty powerful question. I think that that's a question really good therapists probably find a way of asking early in the game. I think that's a question a really good doctor, when you come in and it's like, hey, this is an issue. That's an important, and I think it's a question God would ask us of our own heart, our own soul's condition. Like, do you want to get well? Because if you don't want to get well, no amount of good advice, no amount of good preaching, no amount of good exegesis of the scripture, of the text, there's literally nothing that God, me, or anyone else can do to help someone who says, I don't want to be made well. So it's an important question that Jesus asked this man. This man doesn't know who Jesus is. And this man is been there for 38 years. He's accustomed to his mindset, the way he thinks, the way he approaches things, how he goes about his business and his life. And I love Jesus' question because in some ways you could almost borderline be annoyed or offended by it if you're this guy, right? Like, do you really want to be made well? It's like, well, what do you think, right? You can imagine this guy might even be a little angry. It's like, well, what do you think? You think I want to be like this? You think I like the way I am? You think that this is the way I chose to be, like this is how I would have chosen it? No, I don't like this. I don't like the way my marriage is acting. I don't like the way that it's gone. I don't like the way my physical being is going. I don't like my fitness or my health. I don't like the way I've responded to stress. I don't like my reactions in a lot of moments. I don't like that I've trained my kids to react like me, right? Like now they're treating me the way they saw me treat their dad or their mom, right? There's all this stuff. It's like, yes, I want to be made well. But Jesus isn't asking the obvious question. He's asking the question much deeper, which is a matter of the soul and the heart and the faith. Do you want to be made well is an invitation to you having to do something different about life that you see yourself having. Now, if all you want is me to do what these gods are believed to do, which is we're just gonna like hocus pocus and like breathe on you and you're good. Jesus in this story, for some unique reason, Jesus doesn't do it that way. He involves this man in his own healing narrative, and it's pretty powerful. I think Jesus knows that we don't feel comfortable in our mess, but we do feel comfortable in our mess. Have you ever felt like that? Have you ever felt like you can easily complain about everything that you don't like about the mess that you find a certain aspect of your life in? You'll complain about it, you'll talk about it, you'll lament it, you'll share it, all that. But then when it comes time to being uncomfortable to change it, you're like, well, that's a lot of uncomfort. And so you haven't learned to choose which uncomfortable you're going to have in your life. Are you going to have the uncomfortable of facing it, owning it, looking at it, being honest about it, talking about it, getting support and help and treatment possibly for it? That's uncomfortable. It is also uncomfortable to stay in it, and some of you are just stuck smack in the middle. You know it's uncomfortable. You know you want to change. There's desire in you to change, but you haven't been willing to face the uncomfortable of what it's going to take to do the change. And Jesus asks you the same question he asked that man. Do you want to be made well? Because if you do, I'm going to ask you to do something that will help you get well. So the man responds, Sir, The invalid replied, I have no one to help me in the pool. When the water is stirred up, while I'm trying to get in, someone else goes down ahead of me. Can anyone hear themselves? Because this is what our city church is about. If the only person you can hear right now is someone else, you're not really doing the work that is needed. And our city church only works when you are honest with yourself. Our church is not a great church for people who are not honest with themselves. If today you came in looking for support, encouragement, you're going to get that. But if you want change, change only happens to the honest. Okay, self-honest. You have to be honest with you. I have no one to help me. I'm trying to get in the water. You don't understand. She won't support. I've asked and they don't. You don't understand. I've tried to lose this weight. I can't do it. You don't understand. Nobody ever said sorry to me as a little girl, so it's hard for me to say, I'm sorry. It's not easy. There's other girls, there's other women, wives, I'm sure that it comes right out easy because when they were young, they got told, I'm sorry, honey, so often. I didn't. I had to heal my own pain in my room as a little girl. And so I don't really have the tools emotionally to look at what I've done wrong and to be okay with owning it and saying it verbally to the people I love. So I say nothing. Or I use other ways of saying sorry. I make a meal. Or I say sorry I use sex to say sorry because I don't want to say sorry, but at least then he'll feel like I'm sorry, right? Like, or I'll provide a good life. I'm not going to say sorry to her, but I'll take her away for the weekend. I'm not going to actually I'm not going to nurture the hurt I cause with my actions, my behaviors, or my words. I'll just do something else. These are things that start to get into the way of thinking for us. I just act out like this, just the way I am. It's the way I've always been. It's just the way I'm going to be. Or you don't understand. You don't understand who I'm married to. You don't understand how my dad is. You don't understand how my mom is. This is the stuff that this guy is saying to Jesus. Jesus is asking him, he doesn't know it's Jesus. Jesus is asking him, do you want to be made well? Because I've got a plan to help you get well. And this man is like, yeah, maybe I want to get well. Obviously I want to get well, but I really don't want to get well. Don't you see how married I am to all my excuses? I love my excuses more than I would love the uncomfortability of having to face them and change them and be honest about them. So I don't want to do that. So Jesus replies to him, get up. Pick up your mat and walk. Now, what is the thing this man for 38 years has probably wanted to be able to do? Walk. Walk is the last thing Jesus deals with. Walk is the thing he says you get as a result of the things I want you to do. First of all, I want you to obey. Get up. But I can't get up. I don't have legs that work. I don't have this. I don't have that. I don't know this. I can't do this. This is why and that is why. Get up. Get up. Now, there's obedience on the table. The first thing Jesus asks him to do is obey what I ask you to do. Don't worry about how it works and if you'll be able and all that. Just push the first domino. Just get up. I know what you want. Yeah, I don't want to get up. I want to walk. Can you talk about walk? Can you just, wait, first presto change on my legs. Make my legs change right now. And then I'll get up and walk. That's what I want. That's how my healing, that's how my story, my narrative, that's how I want you to do it. Like, change her. Then I'll change. Change him. Because he's the reason I'm still like this. You know how many people have gotten married a second time and realized it wasn't the first one? Best believe that one. So for some of y'all looking down the road and you ain't looking into yourself, just trust. We'll be seeing you again. Get up. Okay, ready? Get up is a faith question. It's an obedience question. I want you to do what I've asked you to do. First and foremost, we start with faith. Everything about change in this life, in my opinion, in the estimation of the Bible, is going to begin with you putting your trust in what Jesus says is best for you. Not what you want, not what feels easy, not what you believe, not all the things that you see coming across Instagram telling you how it works. You silence all the noise of all the other people and all the paralyzed folks all around in the 38 years of how it don't work. And when he says to you, I want you to do this, I want you to pray for him every single day. I want you to pray with her, pray for them every day. Now it's like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. Get up. Get up to someone who can't get up. You know how hard that sounds? That's just for those of you that are like, I feel like what God might be asking me to do is too hard for me. It is too hard for you to do on your own. That's why your trust and your faith must be placed in, I trust you. I trust that you love me, and I'm going to do this, and it is going to feel like the end of me, but I'll do it. I will get up. I will make that phone call. I will set up the appointment. I will go find out more. I will look into it. I will change. I'll do it. I will, what is that called? It's called yielding. You know that little yellow sign that has a triangle? That when you drive in certain areas, like it's like, hey, you're here to yield. Or the red one in certain areas, like you go, it's like, hey, you need to yield here. Slow down. And what are you doing? You're yielding to the other traffic. I don't get priority. I don't get to jam on the gas and say, too bad for you. No, I must yield. Some of you, that's the missing link between you and God changing an area of your heart and your soul. You don't yield to God. You want God to yield to you. When he's put the yield sign out in front of your driving life and you're driving, you're just like, I'm just going to go. I don't care. This is what I want. This is how I'll fix it. I'll get that. And God's like, I want you to change. I'm going to change you. You have to yield to your plan and your way. Yield. That means pain. Slow down, stop, don't get to go, don't get the right of way. It's not for you, it's for the next person driving by, probably driving by so slow that the yield feels like it's a stop sign. Why does it take them so long? So I can finally go. Get up, pick up your mat. Put the scripture back up there, please. Pick up your mat. Number two thing is you have to do something after you have faith. Faith alone ain't gonna change nothing. You have to change something actual. You have to actually do something physical, verbal, mental, emotional. You have to do something. You can start with faith, but if you just go, well, I'm just going to have faith to do, yeah, that's great. You're going to do faith. Faith's great. But Jesus says, get up now, pick up the mat. Why you got to pick up the mat? Shoot, if I couldn't walk for 38 years and then I got up, the mat's be the last thing I'm doing. I ain't worried about the mat. Bump this mat. Dirty old ragged mat, smelly mat that just reminds me of all my problems and issues. I'm not dealing with that. I want to leave that thing so far behind. But Jesus was like, no. Clean up the life that has been there for 38 years. This is called making restitution. This is called saying sorry. This is called addressing the wake of damage you've left with your choices and life beforehand. Pick up your mat. I want you to clean this up. We're going to address things. Now that you can walk, I want you to actually clean because you've been there for a while. We're going to clean where you were. You're not going to be there no more, but we're not just going to leave the clutter of what you were and what you did right behind you. For some of you, you know what this looks like? It looks like after you sit down and look at the choices of food that you make, that you have a conversation with your spouse and with your kids and you make changes and you pick up the mat. You go into the cupboards and you take stuff out and throw it away and never buy it again. That's hard, but it's truthful. It's the honest thing. We're finding out more and more and more about the stuff they've put in our foods. And so much of the sickness that has come upon so much. And it's not fair. It's kind of wicked, to be honest. And I don't want to dive deep into this, but this is a deep dive. The corporate greed over the last 30 years literally put stuff in our food that made us addicted to it and made it awful for us and caused terrible for a lot of body types, easier weight gain and dysfunction and inflammation and injury to our bodies. And it's terrible what has happened out there. And if you don't know about this, you won't just go Google something. Are they messing with our food? You can start there. And then that'll bring up something. And I'm telling you, it's an important thing. And some people are like, well, I can't afford to buy organic. It's like, you're going to afford your physical health one way or the other. Let me tell you how. You're going to afford to buy better food now, or you're going to be forced to afford medical pharmaceutical drugs at the end of your life. Can I tell you the wicked thing that they want? They want to make us sick with the food, make our food terrible for us to get us sick so that we need their pharmaceutical drugs later. It's a freaking racket, y'all. And they're probably going to shut this down right now on YouTube because I'm telling that truth. If you could still see me live on YouTube, we're coming to you with that real truth at our city church. Listen, I want you to be free. I want you to be healthy. And some of us, you won't be able to get healthy if you don't pick up your mat. Okay, look, I already done told y'all I didn't have 3 hot dogs. I had 5. So this is not, I've got it all figured out and I don't mess up, okay? I still love Raising Cane's. I can still put down 2 double doubles with 2 fries. And if you there, you might as well drink Coke, you know? It's free refills. It's like 5,000 calories, I'm almost positive. And I don't care if Chick-fil-A is the Lord's chicken. I will eat so much of it, it ain't the Lord's no more. God is not honored by the amount of chicken I can put down from Chick-fil-A. He ain't honored. He looks at that, he goes, that was the Lord's chicken, but you've defiled the things of God. You have ruined what I made for the people. Pick up your mat and walk. Now you get the results of all the work. Now you get the results of the hard choices. Now you get the results of having hard conversations in your family system. And I don't want to embarrass him, but I'm so proud of one of our own. I've told him this privately, and I think I know him well enough to be all right with it. Like, I look at a dude like Danny Murray who took this upon himself and faced it, and like he has gotten this this whole new life, and as a result. And every time I saw him, I swear, I was like, dude, I kept having to meet a new dude. And then he had that beard for a while, and then he knocked the beard off, and I was like, bro, I'm like in the Twilight Zone. I felt like it was like 20 years ago. But I'm proud of him. It's not easy to do that. And I know that the health part is like usually not in church conversation, right? We usually kind of leave that out because it could be touchy. It could be sensitive. There's so many different reasons. I know there's lots of different things that are out of our control for some of us, but for many of us, it is not out of our control. We have just put it and frozen it and just been like, and I get it. You could get so sad, depressed, and just feel like, dude, I've let it go so bad. I don't even know if I ever could get to that next little decade number. I always look at the decades. Like I get down, I don't want it to start anymore, the 2. I'm like, man. That's a joke because Mike told me, he's like, I bet you, because once he saw me going downhill, he was using sarcasm to encourage me. We're sick, by the way. I'm sorry if this don't bless you, but I'm going to try to bless somebody with this. Mike was like, dude, why stop at this? Why don't you just get the 2 bills, homie? Get there. Go on the way, man. If you're going to do it, just do it. Get all the way there and then lose the weight. I'm like, I know what you're doing, and it makes me laugh, and laughter and sarcasm is my love language, okay? Like, I don't know what all that dude wrote about. He left one chapter out, and it was laughter and sarcasm. That's how God, if you want to bless me, make me laugh. And, but it worked, actually, because it was one of the last things he said to me. He was like, just get to 200. I'm like, oh, man, that means I'm close. And I'm only 5'10". That's not for some. That's easy, right? You have a different frame. I say all this to say this. Verse 9, Jesus said, at once the man was cured. He picked up his mat and he walked. Now, if I had more time, I'd preach on this for 2 or 3 weeks. But you'll notice that the man was cured when he did what Jesus told him to do, but he still had work to do. He got up, he picked up his mat, and he walked. I imagine it would have been hard for him to listen to do that, but once he did, he was healed instantly, but he doesn't instantly walk. Jesus healed him, okay? Jesus healed him before he realized he was probably able to do it. But he had it in him. Jesus like, get up, pick up your mat, and walk. That meant once Jesus got done telling him that he could walk, he could walk. He just hadn't done it yet. He hadn't got up, he hadn't picked up his mat, and he hadn't walked. For some of us, the healing is the connection and trust in Jesus and the commitment to doing what's next. And that's it. And that's the healing. And some of you are like, well, I'm only gonna let myself believe and have healing when I'm healed. No, healing is a process, not a moment. In this story, it is a moment. And we all read stories like this, and we want, especially in our generation, we want the 90-minute movie with the perfect ending, and then we're done, right? That happened here, but I believe that there's something drawn out here that is a process to trust more than a moment to desire. When it comes to getting healthy in areas of our lives that have been let go for a while, especially physical and emotional and spiritual, they are not quick microwavable changes. They're small incremental changes. They're one domino at a time that knock the next domino down and the next domino down. And so I believe today for some of us, there's this opportunity for us to be able to face and get to something different. It was after that he got up that he could walk. I know for some of us, the idea of being able to be different emotionally, be different physically, be different mentally, talk to yourself differently, it just feels like, come on, how could I ever do? Don't take on the whole picture of it all. Don't do that. Just do the first step. Hey, I want you to put your trust and faith in me, and that I believe in you, and I am here for you, and I'm not gonna leave you, and you don't have to do this alone. And there are gonna be moments. You think he was good at walking? Probably not. Probably was wobbly. I don't think he got up and walked like a champion. He probably walked up was like, I'm walking, but my legs, man, they're not used to this. My equilibrium, his head had never been that high before. He probably wasn't looking at things. The proportions of just always looking up at people, and now all of a sudden you looking at people in the eye. For some of you, that's what's going to happen. God's going to elevate you, heal you to a point where you're not going to feel like you're always looking up at everybody else and everyone's looking down at you. You're going to start looking at people in the eye, and you're going to not be good at it. You're going to feel kind of sheepish. Sometimes you're not going to know how to put yourself out there, but you just keep getting up. You keep picking up your mat. You keep walking, and eventually you will get used to what God is doing and has done in your life. Don't take on the full healing in one moment. Take on the belief that God will finish the work that you and him began. If you'll obey him, he'll walk you through what you're in. And I'm going to tell you right now that you can't do it when you feel it. You must do it before you feel it. Faith is something you use to do the right stuff before you feel the right stuff. You won't believe it. You won't feel it. I remember the first time I started going back to the gym, it was so embarrassing to sit next to dudes, and I had the lightest weight ever. I had let my muscles atrophy so bad from just not dealing with it and ignoring it. That, man, when first time I tried to just I was literally, I grabbed a 20 pounder. I'm like, 20 pounds. I used to curl 30 pounds. Watch me right now. Got up with the 20, was shaking and I was having a hard time, and I was like, dude, this is what it's gonna be. And I had a choice to make. Am I gonna care about what all these people in the gym think about me right now? Or am I gonna care about what Jesus and me are working on with my own temple, with my own soul, with my own life? And I chose to let my arms struggle. And I chose to feel dumb that I couldn't do one pull-up. Not one pull-up, man. I could do one, but I would have to jump up and pull on one, and then even then I'd be like, oh, good girl. And it's a battle. It's like, man, I can't do one push-up. I can't do one sit-up. I can't do one thing. You don't have to yet. Neither could I. And I still can't do a lot of them. I could probably get a good, solid, honest, Army 4 in. I could get 4 pull-ups in now, and I'm swimming more than I have, and I'm not where I want to be. I'm not at my goals. But you know what I am doing that I feel proud of is I'm not quitting anymore when I have a setback. That when I stumble and wobble and I don't do it right, I just keep getting up. I keep picking up my mat, and I just keep walking. And for some of you, that's what you have to do in this area of your life. And so how can you do this? For some of you, it will start with just knocking down the first domino. Park further away at the mall. Don't look for the easy parking spot. I don't do it anymore. And if you're with me, I know it's annoying if I ever drive. Some of you was like, you don't even want to drive with me no more. Why is this fool always parking? I'm just and I don't ever say it out loud. It's hot. Remember it was hot a couple weeks ago? It was so hot. And I'll park so far, and we'd be so sweated out by the time we got to the store. They're like, dude, there was parking up front and air conditioning close. What is this life? And I'm like, I have to do it. You don't understand me. You don't understand me. You don't know how so simple and easy it will be for me to say, skip it. And once I skip it, I'll start knocking the other dominoes down. Then my I don't care anymore domino, I hit that one, and it hits another I don't care, and I don't care, and you know what, I can't, I'll never change. And I got people in my family, and everyone, and we just don't know, and I have like a good time, you know, I mean, I'm gonna say, man, you know, I'll sleep when I'm dead. You know, it's like, well, you're gonna die earlier with that. So I'm gonna give you a couple things you might wanna consider, and these have helped me. Take the stairs, not the elevator. It's one domino. Take the stairs. If you got bad knees, take the elevator. Just want to be fair to everybody. Don't come to me mad because you need knee replacement surgery at 42. Be like, I took the stairs, now look. It's like, man, listen to everything. Take a morning or a night walk with your spouse. And if you got young kids, put them in stroller, let them walk. You got a dog, walk. But either in the morning or at night, take a walk and just talk. Maybe you're not going to fix the whole whatever's wrong, but just do that. Just do that small little thing. For some of you, pray in the morning or at night over your spouse. Just pray out loud. Pray out loud. For some of you, sign up for a meal plan for a certain amount of time, for 3 weeks, 2 weeks, 4 weeks, 5 weeks, 6 weeks. There's lots of them out there. Meal delivery services have really helped me a ton with managing my choices with food. Schedule a physical. Call your doctor, schedule a physical. Some of you haven't gone to see the doctor because you know the doctor's going to tell you some stuff you don't want to hear. So you just don't go. But go. I know it's scary, but it's as scary as this man when Jesus said, get up. Your get up is just, you need to go see the doctor. Just go see the doctor, hear the results, and let that help motivate, but also help you face your fears and let you and Jesus begin to go, all right, let's get after this. Let's see what we can do. Emotionally, practice gratitude. Okay, ask you and your family, like, what are we grateful for at the end of the day? And this is the most important. If I literally almost changed my life purpose the other day. I was joking, but I wrote it down in my journal. I said, I feel like because I'm watching a generation of people be incapable and unwilling, really resistant and prideful in so many ways, to just say, I'm sorry. That I wrote down, I don't know why, but I feel like my new mission in life is to build a church where the grand majority of all the women and men in it can and often do say, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said that to you. I shouldn't have said daily, like multiple times a day, where it's not even, it's like an easy thing to hear in the house. Like the kids are like, yeah, my parents say sorry all the time. What's the big deal? Whereas if you ask your kids right now, like if I went back there with the camera, was like, all right, everyone raise your hand. How many of your moms say I'm sorry? Your kids would be like, what's that? What's I'm sorry? Oh, when you make a mistake, you say I'm sorry. Like, no, we don't. Well, that's a bad word in our house. It must be because we never get to say it. Mom never says it to dad. I ain't never heard that. Dad don't say it. Dad don't say I'm sorry. Or dad's always saying I'm sorry, but mom don't ever say it. Or mom always says I'm sorry. I ain't heard dad say it once. Right? That would be the story. I almost am like, man, I wish I could change that because of what I know it would do emotionally, how it would heal and bond and reconnect and repair and bring back a bond and a connection to so many different family relationships that matter to you, but you're unwilling or incapable and so resistant, so prideful. I asked someone the other day, I was like, why is it so, she literally said, like, it is so hard. It's the last thing I ever want to get out of my mouth, say I'm sorry. And I know it. I'm like, why is that? They're like, I don't know. I really don't. I'm like, you need to call somebody. Call on Jesus. Last one would be spiritual health. I would like to encourage you to normalize God talks in your house. Don't make talking about God such a, I can't believe we're talking about God right now. Like, it should be normal. Hey, where did you see God at work today? What? That's such a weird question, Dad. All right, I'll try again tomorrow. Hey, did you see the evidence of God and his goodness today? Where did you see God today? Hey, I saw God, and then you lead. And you start teaching them how to identify that I saw God today. I saw him at work here. And I was really tired and stressed, but this patient needed extra support. And I said, God, I asked you to give me strength today. I don't have it. And he did. And I walked in there and I gave such great care to this patient and I didn't feel like doing it. And I know that's God. That's not me. I don't have that, but God does. And I relied upon him and he filled. Today I made wise food choices and I didn't want to. I was at a work event, at a lunch, and they served food that I knew was bad and went against what me and God are trying to work on. And I resisted it and I didn't do it. And I went and got something healthier to eat afterwards. And I'm really proud. I saw God today. He gave me strength. Like, these are the things that we start to say to our kids, and we start to say to our spouses and our husbands and wives. And then this stuff starts to get normalized. We talk about where we see God. We bring up God. I also would ask you to commit to church, attending or watching, but being what the family just does. If we're not here, we watch. And if we can't watch, we'll get back to it. Make the decision one time as a family that church is what you do. Don't make the decision every Sunday or Saturday night. If you do that, there'll be a lot of them you won't come to. But you as a family decide to say, we go to church in this family. Church is a non-negotiable. We just do it. And I know we have stuff to do and all that, and that we don't judge that. But watch then. Be like, hey, if we can at all, while we're driving, while we're somewhere, we'll do it. And if not, we'll set aside time on Monday. We'll download it. We'll watch it together. Just make that a determination that you'll do that. Don't commit each time. Commit once, and then just make that a part of your life. Lastly, I want to invite you to come to worship night on September 17th. It's going to be at 6:30 on September 17th. There's a QR code that you can scan as well. And this is what the QR code is going to do for you. I asked the team to put together a worship playlist it's on Spotify, right? Somebody know that? Spotify? Yes? Good. It's on Spotify. This is the music that we play during worship on Sunday. So here's what I want to ask you to do. Between now and September 17th, I want you to go to Spotify and just start listening to these songs. Maybe take a couple weeks off listening to all the music that we all love, and I do. I'm a music lover, right? But I think from now until then, it would be great if we just say, hey, why don't I just rinse my heart and my soul and just let God speak to my heart and allow worship music to take your heart on a journey that will strengthen you so that you can become who God has wanted you to be. Get up. Just get up. Listen to worship music on Spotify. Pick up your mat. Say sorry to somebody for what you said yesterday, what you did this week. Just say, I'm sorry. Like, I don't want it to be someone who literally doesn't know and doesn't do that. And I created an environment where I didn't teach anyone to do it because it's hard for them because it was hard for me. The last thing I would want is for my daughter to not be able to apologize in her adult life because she didn't see her daddy apologize. And so I told y'all this a couple weeks ago. I'm not the best dad. I mess up so much, and I see it sometimes too in her now even. But one thing that I was proud of is that I'm not really a handyman around the house. I wouldn't have any pictures up in my last house if it wasn't for Danny Murray. But I'm not. But on her little fill out the card thing, Eliana filled out all the stuff it was the thing about dad. And the one thing it says my dad can fix. And she filled out my color hair, my eyes are blue, my favorite team, my favorite color. She knew everything about me. Every stuff I didn't even know she knew about me. My favorite food, ribeye. It was she had it all filled out. And then this one little thing was blank. And then I got all kind of hurt in my heart. I was like, what is this? My eyes, you know how it is, right? 20 great things, the one bad thing. And I was honed in on that. So I looked at this little second grade assignment and it said, my dad can fix. And I was all, oh man. She don't know. She ain't never seen me fix nothing. I was like, man. And I was like, Eliana, I was like, this is blank. Yeah. Did you miss it? Did you just not see it? She goes, no, I saw it. I was like, oh, man. I said, what does daddy ever fix? She's like, well, daddy, some of the other daddies fix tire, car, oil, stuff, the filter on the refrigerator, something. And she goes, oh, I know. And she grabbed the pen and she grabbed paper and she's like, don't look. And she wrote in something and she turned around. She goes, that's what you fix. And it says, my daddy fixes my feelings. I would love it for my church to be able to fail at a lot of things and to make sure that none of us fail at that. Let it be said of us husbands that our wives say, my husband knows how to fix my feelings. He speaks to my feelings. He says sorry for the things he does that affect my feelings. Let it be said of us as wives in this room today, ladies, that your husband, when you're not in the room, says, when she hurts my feelings, she will say sorry for that. She verbalizes it. She doesn't use other ways. It's not a meal. It's not intimacy. She speaks to what it was that I experienced and she says sorry. Let it be said, let our kids say that about us. let them brag on that without knowing it's even bragging, because it's so normal to them. Be like, yeah, whenever daddy or mommy said something too rough, they come in and they say sorry. They fix our feelings. This is the type of emotional health that I think God would have us to have, in our spiritual health and our physical health along with it. Get up, pick up your mat, and then you can walk. Let me pray for you. God, I thank you today for your word. I thank you for the truth in it. And Jesus, I thank you for the fact that we can rely on you. These things are difficult. Some of us have been this way for a long time, and the idea of even facing them is scary. And I speak to that fear in the name of Jesus, and I ask that you would silence it. I pray in the name of Jesus that you would silence the voice of fear in the heart and mind of people under the sound of my voice right now. Would you speak to that fear faith? Would you speak to that fear love? Would you speak to that fear comfort and your presence, and that you will never leave or forsake, and you don't shame, you don't judge, you don't look down at. Those voices are the voices of the devil. It is not the voice of our Savior. You want us healthy. You want us growing. You want us taken step by steps, and you are there to help us do that. I pray today that you would show us where our own version of faith, a simple next step, can be, that we would get up even though we feel like we can't, and we will face something and do something, and that we will then also start to address what has been because of where we've been, and we will begin to clean it up and make those decisions. And even if it's not appreciated, if we start to make emotional changes and no one's throwing a parade or a party because we're doing it, but we would keep doing it because we know we're honoring you and we're learning to walk in an area that we want to change in. And I pray, God, that you would draw us closer to you and let us know that you are so there for us through these tough changes. Help us to press the domino down, push it over, God, so we could see the results and our families can have them as well. I pray this over our church in Jesus' name. If you receive that, will you say amen? Amen. Love you, church.